there's just something deeply misunderstood about people who pull away when things start to feel real. We often label them as cold, distant, or emotionally unavailable. But the truth is far more human than that. Behind that distance is not a lack of feeling, it is an overwhelming depth of it. Avoidant individuals are not running from love. They are running from the fear of losing themselves, from the fear of being hurt, from the fear that opening up might cost them everything. So when we approach them with the words, "I love you," as powerful as those words are, sometimes they don't land the way we expect. Because for someone who fears emotional closeness, the "I love you" can feel like pressure. It can feel like expectation. It can feel like something they might not be able to live up to. But there are three simple words, three gentle words that can reach them in a way that love alone sometimes cannot. "I understand you." These words carry no pressure, no demand, no expectation to change. They say, "I see you as you are, and I am not here to force you into something else." Understanding is the language of safety, and safety is what an avoidant heart craves more than anything. When you say, "I understand you," you are telling them, you don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to defend your space. You don't have to hide your fears. And in that moment, something powerful begins to happen. The walls they built, not out of selfishness, but out of survival, begin to soften. Not because you broke them down, but because you made them feel safe enough to open the door. You see, connection doesn't grow in pressure. It grows in presence. When someone feels understood, they no longer feel alone in their experience. And loneliness is often the root of avoidance. Not the absence of people, but the absence of being truly seen. So instead of chasing them with louder expressions of love, meet them with quiet understanding. Instead of asking, "Why are you like this?" say, understand you. Instead of feeling rejected, recognize that their distance is often a form of protection, not from you, but from pain they haven't yet healed. And here's the deeper truth. The moment an avoidant person feels truly understood is the moment they begin to trust. And trust is the bridge to everything they've been holding back. Because at the end of the day, love is not just about what we say. It's about how safe we make someone feel in our presence. So if you truly want to touch an avoidant heart, don't just tell them you love them. Show them you understand them, because in a world where most people are trying to change them, being understood feels like freedom. And sometimes freedom is more powerful than love. Avoidant behavior is one of the most misunderstood emotional patterns in human relationships. And because of this misunderstanding, many deep connections are lost before they ever have a chance to grow. When someone pulls away, becomes distant, avoids deep conversations, or seems uncomfortable with closeness, the immediate assumption people make is simple: they don't care enough, they don't love enough, or they are emotionally unavailable. But this assumption misses the truth entirely, because avoidant behaviors is not rooted in a lack of love, it is rooted in fear. This fear is not always visible, and most of the time it is not even fully understood by the person experiencing it. It is built over time through past experiences, childhood conditioning, emotional wounds, disappointments, and moments where vulnerability led to pain instead of connection. These individuals often learned, consciously or unconsciously, that opening up can lead to rejection, that depending on someone can lead to loss, and that expressing emotions can make them feel exposed and unsafe. So instead of risking that pain again, they choose distance, not because they don't feel, but because they feel too much. At their core, avoidant individuals value independence, control, and emotional self-protection. They have trained themselves to rely on their own strength rather than trusting others with their inner world. When emotions begin to intensify in a relationship, instead of leaning in, they instinctively step back. This reaction is not a calculated decision. It is a defense mechanism, a learned response designed to protect their heart from perceived danger. And that danger is not always the present moment. It is often a reflection of past pain replaying itself in their mind. What makes this dynamic even more complex is that avoidant individuals do experience love, and often very deeply. They can care, they can attach, they can feel a strong emotional connection, but the moment that connection starts to demand vulnerability, their fear begins to rise. It creates an internal conflict, a push and pull between wanting closeness and fearing it at the same time. On one side, there is a desire to connect, to be understood, to be loved, and on the other side, there is a powerful urge to retreat, to create space, to regain emotional control. This is why their actions can feel confusing to others. One moment they seem present and engaged, and the next moment they withdraw, creating distance without clear explanation. To someone on the outside, it can feel like rejection, inconsistency, or lack of commitment. But internally, it is often a struggle between their heart and their fear. They are not rejecting the person, they are reacting to the discomfort that intimacy brings up within them. Understanding this changes everything. When you begin to see avoidant behavior as fear-based rather than love deficient, your approach becomes softer, more patient, and more compassionate. Instead of taking their distance personally, you start to recognize it as a protective response. Instead of trying to force closeness, you allow space for trust to develop naturally. And instead of labeling them as uncaring, you begin to see the emotional complexity they carry beneath the surface. It is important to remember that avoidant individuals are not broken and they are not incapable of love. They simply learn to associate closeness with risk. And until that belief is gently challenged through safe and understanding connections, their instinct will always be to protect themselves first. Real connection with them requires patience, consistency, and emotional safety, not pressure, not demands, and not ultimatums. Because in the end, the avoidant heart does not need to be chased, it needs to feel safe. And when that safety is present, when fear begins to quiet down, something beautiful happens. They slowly begin to open, not all at once, not dramatically, but in small, meaningful ways. And those small steps, built on trust and understanding, often lead to the deepest and most genuine forms of love. I love you is one of the most powerful phrases in any language. It carries warmth, commitment, depth, and emotional meaning that most people long to hear and express. For many, these words create a sense of security, closeness, and reassurance. But for someone with an avoidant attachment style, those same words can feel very different. They can feel heavy, overwhelming, and sometimes even suffocating. This does not mean that an avoidant person does not value love or that they are incapable of feeling it. In fact, they often feel love deeply, but the way they process it is shaped by their past experiences and emotional conditioning. When they hear, "I love you," instead of simply receiving it as affection, their mind may immediately begin to interpret it as expectation, responsibility, or even pressure to respond in a way they are not ready for. For an avoidant individual, love is often associated with loss of independence. Somewhere along their journey, they may have learned that closeness leads to control, that emotional attachment leads to vulnerability, and that vulnerability leads to pain. So when someone expresses love, it can unconsciously trigger these beliefs. It can make them feel like they are being pulled into something that might eventually take away their sense of freedom or emotional safety. Another layer to this reaction is the fear of not being able to meet expectations. When someone says, "I love you," it often comes with an unspoken desire for reassurance, consistency, emotional availability, and sometimes long-term commitment. For an avoidant person, this can feel like a silent demand, even if it is not intended that way. They may start to question themselves, wondering if they can give enough, if they can stay emotionally present, or if they might eventually disappoint the person who loves them. This internal pressure can lead to a withdrawal response. Instead of moving closer, they may create distance, not because they want to hurt the other person, but because they are trying to regulate their own emotions. It becomes a way to regain control, to slow things down, and to protect themselves from feeling overwhelmed. Unfortunately, this reaction is often misunderstood, and the person expressing love may feel rejected, confused, or even hurt by the sudden change in behavior. What makes this situation even more challenging is that avoidant individuals may not always communicate what they are feeling. They might not say, "This feels like too much," or "I need time to process this." Instead, their response is often shown through actions, becoming quieter, less responsive, or emotionally distant. This lack of communication can create a gap between both people, where one is trying to move closer while the other is instinctively pulling away. It is also important to understand that timing plays a significant role. An avoidant person may need more time to process emotions and build trust before they feel comfortable with strong expressions of love. When "I love you" is introduced too early or too intensely, it can feel like the relationship is moving faster than their emotional capacity allows. This mismatch in pace can create tension, even if both people genuinely care about each other. So what does this mean for someone who wants to connect with an avoidant individual? It means learning to shift the focus from intensity to understanding. Instead of relying only on strong verbal expressions, it becomes more effective to build connection through consistency, patience, and emotional safety. Small actions, calm communication, and respect for their pace often create a stronger foundation than powerful words alone. This does not mean you should never express love, but it does mean being mindful of how it might be received. Sometimes softer and less pressuring phrases can have a deeper impact. Words that communicate acceptance, understanding, and presence can feel safer, allowing the avoidant person to stay emotionally engaged rather than retreating. In the end, the goal is not to stop expressing love, but to express it in a way that feels safe for both people. Because love is not only about what is said, it is also about how it is felt. And for an avoidant heart, love that feels safe, steady, and free from pressure is the kind of love that they can slowly open up to, trust, and eventually return in their own way. There's a quiet power in feeling understood, a kind of emotional relief that goes deeper than excitement, deeper than passion, and sometimes even deeper than love itself. For someone with an avoidant attachment style, this feeling is not just comforting, it is transformative. While many people believe that love is the key to opening someone's heart, for an avoidant individual, understanding is often the true doorway to connection. When you say the words, "I understand," you are offering something rare, something they may not have experienced consistently in their life. You are not asking them to change. You are not expecting them to explain themselves endlessly, and you are not placing any emotional demand on them. Instead, you are creating a space where they can exist as they are without fear of judgment, rejection, or pressure. And for someone who has built emotional walls for protection, this kind of space feels safe. Avoidant individuals are highly sensitive to anything that feels like emotional pressure. Even well-intentioned actions, such as asking too many questions, seeking constant reassurance, or trying to speed up emotional closeness, can make them feel overwhelmed. When they sense this pressure, their natural response is to withdraw, not because they don't care, but because they are trying to protect their sense of control and emotional balance. This is why understanding becomes so powerful. It removes that pressure completely, When a person feels understood, their nervous system begins to relax. The constant need to defend, explain, or justify themselves starts to fade. They no longer feel like they have to prove their feelings or protect their space so intensely. Instead of being on guard, they begin to feel seen. And being seen truly and deeply is one of the most human needs we all share. For an avoidant person, this experience can be unfamiliar at first. They may not immediately open up, and they may still hold back, because trust is not built in a single moment. But something important begins to shift internally. They start to realize that not every connection requires them to lose themselves, that not every relationship will demand more than they can give, and that it is possible to be close to someone without feeling trapped. Understanding also communicates acceptance. It says, I see your patterns, your distance, your silence, and I am not here to fight against it. Boss, this does not mean ignoring unhealthy behavior, but it does mean approaching it with compassion instead of criticism. When someone feels accepted, they are far more likely to reflect on their own behavior and grow naturally rather than resisting change out of fear. Another important aspect of understanding is patience. Avoidant individuals need time to process their emotions, time to feel safe, and time to trust that the connection will not harm them. By expressing understanding, you are giving them that time without making them feel guilty for needing it. You are allowing the relationship to develop at a pace that feels manageable for them, which increases the chances of long-term emotional connection. It is also worth noting that understanding is not about agreeing with everything they do. It is about recognizing the emotions behind their actions. You may not agree with their distance, but you can understand that it comes from fear. You may not like their silence, but you can understand that it is a way for them to process. This distinction is important because it allows you to remain compassionate without losing your own emotional boundaries. Over time, this consistent sense of understanding builds trust. And trust is something avoidant individuals do not give easily, but when they do, it is meaningful and deep. As trust grows, need to withdraw begins to decrease. They start to share more, express more, and allow themselves to be emotionally present in ways they once avoided. In the end, I understand you is more than just a phrase. It is an experience. It is a message that says you are safe here, you are accepted here, and you don't have to hide. And for an avoidant heart that has spent so much time protecting itself, that message can be more powerful than any declaration of love. Because where there is understanding, there is safety. And where there is safety, real connection has the chance to grow slowly, gently, and authentically. In a world that moves fast, where instant replies, quick emotions, and rapid connections are often expected, patience has become rare and presence even rarer. But when it comes to building a deep and meaningful connection with an avoidant individual, these two qualities are not just important, they are essential. Real connection, the kind that lasts and transforms, does not grow through pressure or urgency. It grows slowly through consistency, calm energy, and emotional steadiness. Avoidant individuals do not respond well to intensity, especially when that intensity comes too quickly. Fast emotional closeness can feel overwhelming, even if the feelings behind it are genuine. When someone tries to rush the process, to demand answers, to seek constant reassurance, or to push for deeper commitment before trust is fully built, it often triggers a withdrawal response. This is not because the avoidant person does not care, but because their internal system is trying to protect them from emotional overload. Patience in this context means allowing things to unfold naturally. It means understanding that trust is not built in grand gestures or dramatic moments, but in small, consistent actions over time. It is the quiet reliability of being there again and again without creating pressure. It is choosing to stay calm even when things feel uncertain, and choosing to give when space waste is needed without interpreting it as rejection. Presence is equally powerful. Being present is not just about physical availability, it is about emotional steadiness. It is about showing up without distraction, without hidden expectations, and without the need to control the outcome. When you are truly present with an avoidant individual, you create a sense of stability that they can begin to trust. They start to feel that they are not being rushed, judged, or pushed into something they are not ready for. One of the biggest challenges people face in these dynamics is managing their own expectations. It is natural to want clarity, reassurance, and emotional closeness, especially when you care deeply about someone. But with an avoidant person, pushing for these things too quickly can have the opposite effect. Instead of bringing them closer, it can create distance. This is why patience is not just about waiting. It is about understanding the timing of emotional growth. Consistency plays a crucial role in building this kind of connection. Avoidant individuals often test, consciously or unconsciously, whether someone will remain steady over time. They may pull back, create distance, or take longer to respond, not to play games, but to see if the connection can handle space without falling apart. When you remain consistent, when your energy does not drastically change in response to their behavior, it sends a powerful message that you are stable, reliable, and safe. Another important aspect of patience and presence is emotional self-control. Reacting with frustration, anger, or desperation when an avoidant person withdraws can reinforce their fear of closeness. It can make them feel that relationships come with emotional cows, which only strengthens their instinct to protect themselves. On the other hand, responding with calmness, understanding, and balance helps create a different experience, one where connection feels safe instead of overwhelming. It is also important to recognize that patience does not mean losing yourself. Healthy patience includes maintaining your own boundaries, your own emotional well-being, and your own sense of self. You are not meant to tolerate unhealthy patterns or ignore your needs, but rather to approach the situation with awareness and emotional intelligence. True connection happens when both people feel respected, not when one person sacrifices everything for the other. Over time, when patience and presence are consistently practiced, something begins to shift. The avoidant individual starts to feel less threatened by closeness. Their need to withdraw becomes less intense, and their ability to stay emotionally engaged begins to grow. They may start to open up in small ways, sharing thoughts, expressing feelings, or simply staying present for longer periods of time. These small steps are significant because they represent trust being built slowly and genuinely. In the end, real connection is not about speed. It is about depth. It is not about forcing someone to open up, but about creating an environment where they feel safe enough to do so on their own. Patience and presence are the foundation of that environment. They turn uncertainty into stability, fear into trust, and distance into closeness. Because when someone feels that they are not being rushed, not being pressured, and not being forced to become someone they are not, they begin to relax into the connection. And in that space of calm and safety, something beautiful grows, a connection that is not only strong, but also real, lasting, and deeply meaningful. At the heart of every human connection lies a simple truth. People do not open up where they feel pressured. They open up where they feel safe. And for someone with an avoidant heart, safety is not created through intensity, demands, or even powerful words like "I love you." It is created through understanding, patience, and quiet emotional presence. When you begin to see avoidant behavior not as rejection, but as protection, your entire perspective shifts. You stop chasing, forcing, and over-explaining, and instead you start creating space for trust to grow naturally. You realize that their distance is not a reflection of your worth, but a reflection of their past experiences and inner fears. The three simple words, "I understand you," carry a depth that goes beyond surface level emotion. They remove pressure, they dissolve fear, and they build a bridge where walls once stood. These words tell someone, you are safe here, you are accepted here, and you don't have to fight to be yourself. And for an avoidant individual, that message can be life-changing. But understanding alone is not enough. It must be supported by patience and presence. Real connection is not built overnight. It is built in small moments, consistent actions, and steady energy. It is built when you remain calm in uncertainty, when you respect their pace, and when you choose connection over control. At the same time, it is important to remember that a healthy relationship is always a balance. While you offer understanding and patience, you must also honor your own emotional needs and boundaries. True connection is not about losing yourself for someone else, but about meeting each other in a space where both people feel valued and respected. In the end, love is not just about what you say, it is about how you make someone feel. And sometimes the deepest kind of love is not loud or intense, but gentle, steady, and safe. Because when someone feels truly understood, when they feel no pressure to perform, no fear of being judged, and no need to protect themselves, they begin to open in ways they never thought possible. And that is where real love begins, not in words alone, but in the quiet feeling of being safe enough to stay.